And we continue learning Rabeinu Yona's Sharei Teshuva, Baruch Hashem. Finally, catching back up to date, we're on page 347 in the Art School edition, in which we continue with the Madrega HaChamishit, the fifth level of Avera Lav Sheyesh B'I Maisa. After extensively listing so many Averos of a Lav She'ein B'I Maisa, negative commandments, Averos that deal with your speech, with your sight, with your listening, now continues with your lack of action. Continues Rabeinu Yona. Now we go on to Lavim Sheyesh B'I Maisa, which are even more Chamer. It says Rabeinu Yona. Amru Rabbi Seinu Zechron Levracha teaches Gemara in Makis Lav Sheish B'Maisa. Like in a love, one gets a malchus for, unfortunately, stumbling. Malchus Arbam Chazrach has 39 malchus. Says Rabeinu Yona, V'amru Zechron Levracha. The Gemara in Sanhedrin has taught us malchus tachas misa oimedis. Malchus is in the place of misa Rachman Litzlan. Rabbi Mishalaka V'Shana. Therefore, it says if a person receives a malchus twice, and then transgressed, and then stumbled again for the third time, Bezdin puts him in a cramped cell, in confinement, in a situation that will lead to his death. We do not give Malchus a third time. Says Rabeinu Yona, the chayva, before we even get into the actual aveiros, Rabeinu Yona begins that who's really the obligation upon? The chayva, the obligation is on those who can give teichacha, unto the leaders, to examine, to look thoroughly into the ways of the people, and investigate. With what they often stumble as hiram, and to warn the people. Kishas hares rabbis, because there are many aveiros. Even though people observe part of the aveira, mevalim hey miksasam. So number one, says Rabeinu Yona, is on the leaders, on the rabbanim, on the rabbeim, to find the areas to be mechazek. And explains Rabeinu Yona an example. People are shemer Shabbos. They don't desecrate Shabbos, but there are malachas, unfortunately, people don't know, and they're not nizar, they're not careful about them because they're not known to them. And says Rabeinu Yona, even though it was not on purpose, these Averas, the Avera dwells with them. Why? Because you didn't live amongst the Talmidei Chachamim. The Rav gave a shiur, the Rebbe tried to teach. It's upon the person to go and learn. But do not seek to learn Torah. Al-Kain, Torah is Avra Vanansha, therefore they transgress the Torah and they'll be punished. Yuchan Rasha, Baal Lomad, Sadek, and there are those who do Averas who neglect certain areas and transgress them, because they were young. They were not horrible in them. We know that, unfortunately, whatever we're trained to do when we're young, whatever we do when we are children, is the way that we continue. So an area on which one was not trained, unfortunately, he'll just continue. V'nachlu yiveles, and therefore they've adapted and they've adopted the way that, unfortunately, maybe their father did something wrong, and they think that's not such a big avera of lo yishmu l'kol mayrim. They don't listen to the voice of their teachers. Ve'lo oisim b'zadan. So these people, it's called a zadon. It's called purposeful because they're not listening. So the first category is one who doesn't know. That's more of a pshia. The second category is, of course, that much worse. So it says Rabeinu Yona, let's give some examples. Everyone is careful about blood. However, meaning everyone's careful to make sure the meat they eat is kosher. But there are some who are not careful through a proper malicha, proper salting, to drain the meat of all the blood. And this is one of the reasons that one wants to eat a reputable hechsher, a good hashkacha, in order to make sure the malicha, the salting, is done properly. There are many examples like them. Due to the ignorance and due to the lack of teichacha, and there's no nevuah, the people become unrestrained, they just do things wrong. So Rabeinu Yona begins by explaining that there are areas that, of course, you eat kosher, but you makbid down to the nuances. And now says Rabeinu Yona more examples. There are examples, there are aveiros that people disregard entirely. They don't even watch. They're not even scrupulous and careful about part of it. Kamai, wounding and hitting other people, even though it's a clear Israel, like we'll see, people just neglect it. If you hit your friend, you're over into Aveir. 40 you should hit, less he adds, you can add. Unfortunately, says Rabeinu Yona in his times, there are many people that are over on this by hitting their wives, and therefore it's an Isser De'araisa. Continues Rabeinu Yona, teach Chazal. If you lift your hand on your friend, you didn't even hit him last week's Parsha. Nikra Rasha, just for raising your hand, you get the label of a Rasha. Never Yimmer the Rasha. As Moshe Rabbeinu says to the two people fighting in the Midbar, Lamasakre Echwad, you hit your friend even without hitting him. Lami Kislo Nemer Lamasake. Why would you hit? If I ever raise my hands against a yasam, an orphan, we see the mere raising of the hands is considered the avir. Ravuna Kotzatz Yada Makvuna would cut off the hand of one who would hit other people. Amar was Raya Ramati Shaver. Ravuna said to the pasuk, a raised arm should be broken. The terrible avera, not only of hitting, but even merely raising one's hand to potentially hit someone else.